to say welcome. My name is Alex. I have a Instagram and YouTube channel, Love Sugar Show. So I want to thank you so much for taking your time for doing this interview.
Thank you.
So, first question I ask anyone that I interview is, how's everything going?
Well, it's going really good. Our reception of our album Kinship is really great. I mean, I couldn't have hoped for anything better. I mean, in many ways, we're just a small Danish heavy metal band, and we've gotten great reviews, and there's just great vibes all around. And I mean, there's a lot of people who seem to feel the way about our music that we do. So that's very nice. Yeah, that's heartwarming.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, when you're not sure how, which way it's going to go and you get a lot of positive feedback about it.
Exactly. And also, we had our old album, which we needed to, I mean, it needed to be at least as good or maybe even better, So there was that also. So yeah.
No pressure at all, right?
No.
So, going over the album, I kind of wanted to talk about the theme of this album.
Yes.
If you can kind of tell me a little bit about it and kind of like where the idea came from, because that's one thing that I definitely noticed, like kind of reading over the album that kind of got me intrigued. So I want other listeners to be able to
Yeah.
enjoy that as well.
Yeah, so it's like it's of course when we do themes like this, it's always there's a lot that goes into it for making sure that it's also a lot up to the interpretation of the listener. So, but if I should say things, I would say that broadly speaking, it's about this prehistoric figure, this man in a tribe, living in a tribe, and he kind of loses connection to his brother. His brother seems to be stricken with, I don't know, you can call it dementia, or his mind changes in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of ritual he undergoes. Maybe it's a ritual to make everything better, make the person more real, but instead, the connection is lost. So this person, he's kind of forced to leave his tribe, and he's also forced to, I mean, like. He's forced to accept the fate that he has lost contact with his brother, and there's also the the name of the album Kinship is also related to this aspect, I would say. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so the first song is about this in some way. I would also say how all things develop is a little bit up to interpretation, but he goes on this kind of journey to find himself along the rest of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not because because it's so much up to interpretation, so I could be mistaken by going too much into this. But I would say that in the last song of the album, I think that he is actually forced to join his tribe again, and he undergoes this ritual himself. So in the end, it comes full circle, and he has to give in. There's no escaping. There's no escaping his roots, so to speak. Yeah.
So where did all of the ideas come from? Because that's pretty elaborate. It's like almost like a whole book kind of, series.
Yeah. Uh, I, I I can't say for sure, but it's a mixture between ideas going back and forth from Jens Nikolai and Jon. So our guitarist and our singer. And Jon wrote the lyrics, but there have been some communication about the theme as a whole between the two. But I think a lot of it comes from Jon's writing the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been some back and forth between Jens Nikolai and him, and the rest of us have been like following on the sidelines and saying, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool. That's a great idea to make the story evolve that way." Yeah.
Yeah, so how does each band member kind of contribute to like the creative process? Because it sounds like they kind of like come up with like, I guess, the lyrics and things. So what does I guess the other members do to kind of help create this?
I think do you mean musically or lyrically or
Just
just generally?
musically, and just when you're, I guess, to
Yeah.
do the creative process, like, hey guys, let's make an
Okay.
album.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Jesper and Jens Nikolai, they're brothers and they play guitar. So they usually start off making this guitar arrangement, which is just actually electric guitar arrangement in like recording it into the computer, and they do like a finished song in the sense that there's no drums or bass or lyrics on it, but they have to
Mm-hmm.
like be able to recognize the guitar arrangement as something that could be a whole song, which is like pretty done actually. And they send that off to me. Usually that's the way it goes, that I get it first, and I
Mm-hmm.
do like a drum demo on it. And then we see if that's if everybody's happy about that, and then that's kind of the foundation. Then we do lyrics and bass on top of that, and then we do last in the line. Maybe in an album process, we'll do sound effects and synthesizers and stuff like that. All the extra things. That's generally how it is making the music. So I would say it's a very free creative process where each of us bring like our own interpretation to the board. So first of all, it starts with the guitar interpretation. What song do they want to make? And then I interpret whatever they come up with on the drums. And Aeschylus interprets that on the bass, and Jon, of course, interprets it on the vocal side. So it's very much yeah, each of us going into it, putting our take on the whole. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. It sounds like you guys work well together because I know some bands either they work well or there's a little bit of, conflict during creation process.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be, of course, that can be a challenge, but I think we have made, I mean, me, Jesper, and Jens Nikolai have been making music for a long time together now. So I mean, we we have a very good understanding of what we want and what the other guys like. I know what kind of drums they like also, and they know what kind of drums I like, and they also know what kind of guitar riffs I like. So we have a very mutual understanding of what music we think is really, really cool and great, and we've come up with a like a pretty solid way of making that music, I think. And then also, I mean, because Eskil and Jon are a little bit more recent, but they just kind of fit into it anyway. So they are really, really good at doing stuff that just sounds great right out of the box. I mean, we're pretty good at making ideas that we all like pretty fast. I think. I mean, 90% of what we do is very close to being the way it is on the album when we do a demo.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's not because we don't want to change things or stuff like that. It's just like, I mean, if we like it and it's great, then yeah, okay, we will go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
it's very
cool.
also. Yeah,
It makes it a lot easier too.
definitely, definitely.
Um, so with this album, were you like intentionally trying to come up with a theme or did that just kind of happen? Because it sounds like I said it was like a very thought about storyline, especially when you have like the person he goes through the struggles and everything. Like, was that intentional or did it just kind of happen?
Again, I'm a little bit cautious how precise I can I can say this, but um, but we were intentional in the way that we wanted to do something different than Access All Worlds, our previous
Yeah.
album. So we wanted to do something that was, we didn't want to do another space-faring record. So we wanted to do something that was more introspective.
Mhm.
That was consciously chosen. But but I think the theme of a lot of the philosophical aspects of the theme has a root in Jens Nikolai's thoughts, and then he had been presenting them to Jon, and Jon has been making lyrics out of that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's kind of conscious. It's kind of conscious, I would say, from their part. Yeah, it is. But
Yeah,
but it's hard to say when does an idea start. It starts from nothing at some point. So
exactly. So, is there a song that came together on the album that came together in an unexpected way?
mm. No, I don't think so. I mean, no, I wouldn't say so. They all had their demo phase, and we did the demos for each of them. I
Mm-hmm.
think Mistland was the last demo, so maybe that was a little bit more rushed, if you could
Mm-hmm.
say that. Not that it feels that way now, but yeah, no, I think they're all made in quite the same way. Of course, the acoustic ballad iridescent way is a little bit different,
Yeah.
but that was also a demo before we made it in the album. So
Okay. Well, that works.
yeah, thank you.
So I know we did talk about a little bit about the previous album and then also this album, and you mentioned that you didn't want it to be the same. It wanted to like you guys wanted it to be different. Do you think it compares at all to the previous album, or do you think it's like better? It's just different? How would you kind of compare the two?
I think it's definitely music that's been growing in the same laboratory. But I think it is very different in a way. I think the new record is more organic sounding, and
Mm-hmm.
we also on Access All Worlds, the old one, we wanted to have a little bit more. We wanted to have like kind of industrial kind of sounding record.
Mm-hmm.
So it has this sound to it. I think which takes it in its own it resides in its own space just by that. And Kinship, we wanted to do a more organic sounding record. Um, so I think that we still have that hard modern metallic sound that we have on Access, but it's in a way more organic form. And musically, it's hard to say how consciously we wanted it to be different because the songs just came about the way they did. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe there was some conscious part on Jesper and Jens Nikolai's take on making the initial guitar parts, and they had some ideas that where they wanted it to be a little bit more different. They wanted it to be a little bit more melancholic, maybe. They wanted it to be a little more, maybe even a little bit more rooted in classic music or film music or stuff like that. So there's something about that way of thinking that was different. And I wanted the drums to be also more organic, and I mean the spectrum should be even wider when the in the quiet parts and the
Mm-hmm.
and the violent parts. So there's that to it. And then we made this album Kinship. We made that album as a whole because Access All Worlds was actually mostly recorded before we got Jesper and before we got Eskil on bass and Jon on board. So that's a big difference. So I think that's also giving the new album a more cohesive feeling to it. I think the new album is better. Not that Access. I really love Access All Worlds. I'm very proud of that album, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Kinship is better. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you should say that.
I
Yeah,
mean, I listened to the whole album. I really enjoyed it. So I think it's a great album and I think everyone should definitely give it a listen to. So
thank you.
so what feelings do you hope that people who listen to it or your fans take away from this album?
Well, if I'm really hopeful, I would say that I hope that people will be touched in their hearts by the music. Maybe they'll go on a little journey. Uh, I mean, our hope for our music is that it touches people's heart. It's very emotional, I think, for ourselves also. I mean, that's the goal. So maybe you can go on a kind of trance or journey or something like that. If that happens, then it's working the way it's supposed to.
For sure. And I think a lot of people can also relate to, kind of feeling like they've lost their minds. I mean, I feel like especially with today's stress and stuff, and then they get, kicked out of their little circles. So I feel like it's a very deep thing that people can relate to.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So is there a song in the album that means a lot to you?
Yeah, it's so difficult, but I think that the half and half title song Kinship is that song I'm very very glad about. It's a kind of a little musical. I don't
Mhm.
know, maybe the what do you call this? The best the best I've done, or I think we've done yet, maybe. But I think it's hard to have a favorite. I also like Earth to Sky a lot. I think it's a really really great song. It was a song where, I mean, initially I think we had a little difficulty finding out where should that song go, and
Mhm.
maybe we were being just in the last seconds. We were being a little bit afraid that is this song going to be the song that is not so good on the album? Is this the filler,
Right.
and then actually it turned out to be, for as far as I can, one of the best of the album. So that was great. Also, maybe just because of that, is also one of my favorites. And also the end song, "The Anguished Ethereal," is a fantastic song. So it's hard for me to choose, but maybe between those three is my favorite, and maybe Kinship wins just a little bit.
So is there a reason why you chose those songs? Like, is it were they like, really special to you? Was it hard to write them or you had more input or is there anything like any reason behind those three?
Um, I think I mean, like I elaborate a little bit on Earth to Sky, but I would say with Kinship, there's just there's so many things in that song, and I think to me it still sounds like it's natural. It's not. I don't know if people will agree, but it doesn't sound like we have been forcing things into the mix. I mean, like it sounds very organic to me, and it's just very epic. And it's got one of my, I mean, I love the way the guitar solo worked out on that album, and there's so many things to it. I think it's so larger than life in a way, and so I really like that song a lot. And the last song, "Anguish Ethereal," it's so deep and dark. It's very serious. It's some of the most serious sounding melancholic music. I mean, to my
Mhm.
ears, it's so dark and serious. Not evil, but it's heavy. Yeah.
People do
What can
that
I say?
too though, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So if you had to describe this album to someone who hasn't heard it, what three words would you use to describe it?
Um, Classic heavy metal with a touch of epic classical, I mean, melancholy thrown on top of it, and a big production and clean soaring vocals. Yeah. And
Um,
and also progressive rock in the more, I don't know, in the more classical sense of the word, like progressive rock from the 70s, I think is a big part in our sound also, in a way. Yeah.
yeah, I could definitely hear that in the album. So that's pretty cool because that's, 70, 80s are known for like the best music ever. So
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
so is there anything that you wish that would have been done differently on this album?
Not really, actually. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to open up like our in band discussions on the internet regarding those, but as a whole, I'm very very pleased with this album. I can say for sure. But it's also because there was some things that we didn't get completely right at the first album. Of course, it's the first album, so I mean
Yeah.
maybe it's not that there are things where you think, we'll do this a little differently next time. But I think, I mean, like 98%, we nailed it this time, I think. Of course, you can always have a little second guessings about minute details in the mix, or, I mean, there were some things that we did very fast. There are some things I could have wished. I mean, if I could have spent a little more time on this, could have had been even better. But it's not something that I consciously notice when I listen to it now. So no, I'm very very happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah, 98% is really, really good. So that's awesome. I think a
It
lot
is.
of fans wish they could say that. Usually they're like, yeah, I wish I would have gone over it. But then you get into a point where you're just, trying to fix this and then you're never done with the album because you're never happy. So 98% is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's a very fortunate position to be in because I think it's very true what you're saying. It is like that for many bands, and I also from before. I mean, as I said, we've been playing together for a long time, so we've been making a lot of demos and a lot of stuff we didn't feel was good enough. So I mean, also it has been a long, long journey to learn from our mistakes, and become better at it. So that's also why I think that I can allow myself to say that I'm this happy about it because we found our way of doing it. Yeah.
A fun question. Does the band have any like sort of rituals or quirks before you guys start the writing or recording process?
No, not as such. Not as such. No, I mean we are all living at different parts of the country, and Jon is living in another country on the Faroe Islands. So I mean, like we record separately, and but when we play a show together, we of course we have like a big hug before we go on stage and we go play. So there's a little bit ritual there, maybe.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Do you think it makes it harder that you guys are all over the place?
Yes, of course it does. I mean, it would be a joy to live in the same city and just go jam in the rehearsal space. But I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, yeah, what can you do? Uh, it's not so easy to change those things. I mean, but we have just a good working relationship, and we have a
Yeah.
great time when we hang out together. Yeah.
Well, the good news is the internet makes it possible, whereas, way back when that couldn't be a thing. So that's pretty awesome that we can do that nowadays.
Exactly, exactly. It's very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So, where did the album name come from, Kinship?
Yeah, I think we had actually some discussion about if that was the right title, but in the end it prevailed. And it's also because the theme of the album, because the lyrics, as I mean the album title was one of the last things that got decided because all the lyrics was written. And yeah, and because it's about this guy who like leaves his tribe and leaves his brother, and his brother kind of disappears from him mentally and physically.
Yeah.
We thought it was a suiting title, and also because it's many ways it's a very emotional music, and a lot of people has a lot of emotions attached to their kin. Both sometimes, of course, very good, but also sometimes not so good. So
Hmm.
maybe it was also a way to make the album a little more, I don't know, grown up and serious, maybe. Yeah.
So, since this album is about a man who, has to leave his tribe and his brother, did you guys name him or do you have?
No, it's not. No, it's not that specific. No, no, it's deliberately also unspecific. So hopefully people won't think about it like too specifically. They will be able to interpret it and put their own ideas and thoughts and feelings into it.
That's pretty cool. Then that way they can kind of like go in and make it whatever they want it to be instead of like, okay, this is this person and they get to
Yeah,
create a journey. That's
exactly. That's the goal at least.
well, that's awesome. I do have one last question here for you. Is there any message that you'd like to give, previous fans, anyone interested in listening to the album? Like just kind of like a message to them.
No, I would just say to all who's been listening, thank you for listening, and I hope that one day we'll come and play in the US. That's a big dream of ours. It's a little difficult for a band our size still, but maybe one day it will happen. And yeah, and I just hope that people will listen to the record and give it a chance because yeah, maybe they'll like it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Help the band make the dream come true. That way I can go to a show here so everyone's happy.
Yeah.
And for anyone else that is interested in listening to it, it did come out on October the 25th through Metal Blade. And I will leave a link below so you can go listen to it. It is awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time for doing this interview. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or evening.
Thanks for reaching out, and it was a pleasure. So thank you, and likewise.
All right. Take care.